Just think about this for a second. Billions, literally billions of people still don't have good, consistent internet access. They're kind of stuck on the wrong side of this digital divide.
Yeah, it really limits opportunities, doesn't it?
Mm.
Education, communication, all sorts of things.
Totally. But imagine if you could just bypass all the ground stuff, the cables and towers, and get connectivity beamed down from space.
Oh, that's pretty much what we're digging into today, isn't it?
Exactly. Starlink.
Right, Starlink. It's this really ambitious project from SpaceX. The idea is high-speed, low-latency internet, basically anywhere on the globe,
Right.
using this huge network of satellites.
And for you listening, maybe you're involved in global strategy, maybe you're just fascinated by where tech is heading. This is really your shortcut to getting what Starlink's about, its significance.
Yeah, we've done the sifting for you, tried to pull out the really crucial bits.
And look, we know tech expertise varies, right? So our mission here is to break down how it works, why it actually matters, without drowning you in jargon, just the core stuff.
Sounds good.
So let's jump right in. What's the sort of the fundamental goal? Why build this massive thing in the first place?
Okay, so at its heart, it's SpaceX, Elon Musk's vision. The big goal is high-speed, low-latency internet everywhere. Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Well, the real focus, I'd say, is on places where traditional internet, fiber optic cable, cell towers, it's just too expensive or impractical to build. Think remote villages, really rural spots, places that are always left behind digitally.
So it's about bridging that gap for the unconnected. People call it a new frontier of digital inclusion.
Phrase, yeah.
What's the tech that makes it different? What's so revolutionary here?
The absolute key, I think, is the constellation of low Earth orbit satellites.
LEOs.
Satellites.
Blue Earth orbit.
Right. And that's totally different from, say, traditional TV or weather satellites way up high, tens of thousands of kilometers up. Starlinks are much, much lower.
Yeah?
Around 550 kilometers.
Okay, 550 kilometers. And why does that matter?
It matters hugely because of latency. That's the delay, the time it takes data to go up to the satellite and come back down.
Because they're closer. The trip is shorter.
Precisely, much shorter.
Yeah.
So the round trip for data is way faster. It cuts down that frustrating lag you get with the high orbit satellites.
Which means things like video calls, streaming, maybe even online gaming.
Yeah.
That stuff actually works well, even if you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. It makes real-time online stuff feasible in places where it was just impossible before.
Yeah.
That's a massive change.
Okay, so LEO is key for speed. What else? I read about these antennas.
Yes. The phased array antennas. They're on each satellite. What's really cool about these is they can steer their signals electronically, dynamically.
So wait, instead of a dish physically pointing, it's like the beam itself moves.
You got it. They can talk to multiple ground stations and user terminals at the same time, and they're constantly optimizing the best path for the signal in real time.
Clever. So it's not just fixed, it's adapting.
Constantly adapting. Think of it like this intelligent connection grid up there.
Okay.
And it gets even more sci-fi with the optical space lasers, ISLs.
Okay, lasers in space, connecting satellites. How does that work?
So these are high-speed lasers that let the satellites talk directly to each other up in orbit.
Without needing to bounce the signal back down to Earth every time.
Exactly. Not always, anyway. It creates this kind of mesh network in space. Data can hop from satellite to satellite across oceans, continents, super fast, pretty secure, too.
Wow, okay. That sounds like it's vital for getting truly global coverage, especially the really remote places.
Absolutely critical. Places where building ground stations just isn't going to happen. It's like its own data highway in the sky.
A space highway, I like that. I also saw something about direct-to-cell connectivity. What's that piece?
Yeah, that's a newer development, but potentially really transformative. Direct-to-cell means basically ordinary LTE smartphones.
Like the phone in my pocket.
Pretty much, yeah. Standard LTE phones and also IoT devices, smart sensors, that kind of thing. They could connect directly to the Starlink satellites. No special dish needed.
Just using the regular phone connection.
You're using the 2 gigahertz spectrum for this. Think of it like a specific radio frequency they can use.
So if I'm out hiking, lose cell signal, my phone might just connect to a satellite instead. What's the immediate use case?
The potential is massive. Think about emergencies, earthquakes, floods, when ground networks go down. Direct-to-cell could be a lifeline.
Wow, yeah.
Or remote farms needing to connect sensors, monitor crops or animals, or just basic texting and maybe low bandwidth data for isolated communities without needing everyone to buy a Starlink dish.
Okay, so connecting regular devices is a big step for accessibility, especially in crises or off-grid spots.
Definitely a major advantage.
So we've got satellites talking to each other with lasers, talking to our phones potentially. But for the main service now, how do users actually connect? The dedicated users.
All right, that's where the user terminals come in. People often call them dishies.
Dishy.
Yeah, they're essentially these smart satellite dishes. They actually align themselves automatically.
Mm-hmm.
They find the satellites passing overhead and track them to keep the connection going.
Self-aligning. So pretty easy to set up, relatively speaking.
That's the design goal, yeah. Plug and play, more or less. And what's impressive is how well they seem to work in really tough environments.
Like where?
Well, the source material we looked at mentioned places like the New Zealand outback, pretty rugged, and even Arctic tundras, freezing cold. These dishes are built tough.
Okay, so they're designed to handle diverse conditions. It all sounds incredibly complex, this whole system, which makes it kind of surprising, as the article pointed out, that Starlink uses, quote, basically no AI in its day-to-day running right now.
Yeah, it is a bit counterintuitive, isn't it? Especially now, when AI is everywhere.
So what's the thinking there? Why no AI? Or very little?
Well, Elon Musk's explanation apparently is just that. They haven't found a clear, effective use case for it yet. In the core operations, I mean. The main job has been just getting the basic network built, making the connections reliable.
That yet feels important, though. Does it suggest they might need it later? Are there, like, looming challenges where AI might become necessary?
That's a really good question. I mean, think about the scale. They're launching thousands, potentially tens of thousands of these satellites.
Managing all that must be incredibly complex.
Exactly. As that constellation gets denser and denser, managing the network, optimizing where the data flows, maybe even autonomously maneuvering satellites to avoid collisions or space junk, AI could become almost essential for that level of automation and predictive optimization.
So maybe not needed for version 1.0, but perhaps crucial for scaling up and managing complexity down the road.
Seems likely, yeah. It feels like AI is probably waiting in the wings for when the scale really demands it.
Okay. This is all fascinating globally, but the source we reviewed specifically mentioned New Zealand. Why the focus there? What's the relevance for a country like NZ?
Well, New Zealand's geography is pretty unique, right? You've got cities, but also huge areas of sparsely populated rural land, remote islands,
Yeah.
mountains. It's a classic case of where terrestrial broadband struggles to reach everyone.
So Starlink offers a way to connect those hard-to-reach spots.
Precisely. Think about, say, rural schools.
Ugh.
Suddenly, they could get proper high-speed internet. That unlocks so many educational resources, opportunities for kids who might have been really limited before.
And I was thinking about isolated Maori communities, too. Sometimes building traditional infrastructure there is really challenging, expensive. This could be a huge leap in connectivity for them, right? For culture, business.
Absolutely. A massive leap. And then there's agriculture, which is huge for New Zealand's economy.
Right.
Reliable internet out on the farm enables things like precision agriculture, using sensors, remote monitoring of livestock, better environmental tracking, just better communication across these often huge remote properties.
And emergency services, too, I guess, in remote areas during a crisis.
Yeah, a really vital point. Emergency responders often struggle with comms in remote incidents. Starlink could provide that reliable backup, that lifeline, when other networks might be down or non-existent.
So for somewhere like New Zealand, it's clearly more than just, faster Netflix. It's about access to education, economic activity, cultural connections, safety nets.
Exactly. It's what the article called empowerment, isn't it?
Yeah, more than technology, it's empowerment.
Oh.
It really circles back to that initial point about the digital divide.
It does. It shows how this kind of tech can start to level the playing field a bit, making sure geography isn't such a barrier to opportunity in the modern world.
Okay, let's try and boil this down. If you, listening, take away just a few key things about Starlink from our deep dive today, what should they be?
Right. I'd say the core insights are Starlink's using these low Earth orbit satellites. That's key for low latency. Then you've got the advanced tech like phased array antennas, those space lasers for satellite-to-satellite links, and the potential of direct-to-cell for regular devices, plus the user-friendly dishy.
And all this together represents a fundamentally new way to achieve global internet.
Yeah, a new approach.
Okay.
Especially powerful for those remote and underserved regions, high speed, low latency, where it wasn't really possible before. And interestingly, doing it right now with surprisingly little AI involved in the day-to-day.
And bringing it back to the example for a country like New Zealand, this isn't just abstract tech. It means real, tangible benefits for schools, communities, farms, emergency services.
Exactly right. It shows how this sort of cutting-edge stuff can actually translate into practical, social, and economic progress in very different places.
This has been really insightful. It's kind of mind-bending to picture that network up there constantly working. The article we based this on finished with a phrase I liked, even the sky isn't the limit.
Hmm, that's a great line to end on.
What do you think that leaves us with?
Well, it leaves you, the listener, maybe thinking of the sheer potential here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If we can build this web of satellites bringing broadband to the most remote spots on Earth, well, what else?
What other big challenges seem impossible now but might not be?
Exactly. What other insurmountable problems could we tackle with, that kind of bold thinking and clever engineering? But maybe it's just a reminder for all of us, really. Our own capacity to dream big, build smart solutions, and reach further. Maybe it's greater than we think.